Video games whisk us away to incredible worlds brimming with unique locations, cultures, creatures, lore, and of course, currencies. Whether it's simoleons, Pokémon dollars, bottle caps, the good old gold coin, or teeth, every game has its medium of exchange. This variety adds depth to world building, but sparks a fascinating question. How can we compare item values across vastly different games? The tricky part is that these currencies serve entirely different purposes in their respective universes. While it's tempting to Google the real-world value of an in-game currency, each game's economy exists in its own little bubble, making direct comparisons tricky. Even if we nail down exact currency values in dollars, factors like supply and demand, market quirks, and purchasing power would blur the lines, leaving us with comparisons that don't add up. Therefore, I needed a method to compare the economies of hundreds of games directly, which meant that I needed a universal reference. The concept is simple. I'll use fish as the common thread to measure the cost of expensive items across games. Alongside these high-ticket items, I'll also break down the price of staple foods in terms of fish for each game world. This helps us understand the cost of living in different game economies and the effort needed to survive in each one. Although it may not be as exciting as discussing the most expensive items, it is arguably far more important, as we can utilize staple food prices to directly compare different video game economies. And so, I've dubbed this experiment the Fish Food Index. So, why fish? Well, I needed something nearly universal. My first thought was arrows. They're everywhere, from epic fantasies to modern shooters. But then I realized they're absent in peaceful games like Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, or Pokémon. Fish, however, are a constant. It feels like every game nowadays has a fishing minigame. The Fish Food Index will focus on the most commonly caught fish in each game. This creates a consistent baseline, avoiding wild price swings caused by rare or exotic catches. By sticking to the everyday fish, I can better capture the core of each game's economy. To identify these fish, I'll rely on game wikis, which usually have the most reliable data. If they fall short, I'll dive into the game myself to fill the gaps. And for fictional fish, I'll find a real-world equivalent to keep things grounded. When it comes to items, I'll zero in on the ones sold by NPCs or shops using the game's primary currency. For consistency, I'll work with the selling price of fish, since that's what most players often engage with. While comparing buying prices with buying prices and selling prices with selling prices would be ideal, this approach ensures meaningful ratios across all games. Now, I know the number of fish needed to buy an item doesn't always reflect its actual value. After all, catching 1,000 sardines isn't the same as reeling in 1,000 tuna. That's why I'll also calculate the average weight of the fish and the total mass required for each item. This just gives us a more meaningful comparison. Okay, quick recap. Here's how it works, step by step. Step 1. Pick the fish. I'll identify the most commonly caught fish in each game, avoiding rare or exotic ones to keep things fair. Step 2. Pick the items. I will focus on the most expensive items and the staple foods sold by an NPC or shop. Step 3. Do the maths. By comparing the kilograms of fish required to purchase these items, we can gain a clearer understanding of their actual worth and accurately compare their values across different games. I've even created a Google spreadsheet to handle all the calculations. Each game gets its section where I can input fish prices, weights, and item costs. The sheet then automatically calculates how many fish and kilograms are needed. And I promise, I'm not a nerd or something. The spreadsheet is highly accurate, thanks to hidden fractional values. Also, if a fish is worth 3 coins and an item costs 10, you'd technically need 3 1/3 fish. The spreadsheet rounds it up as you can't catch 1/3 of a fish, telling us that you'd need 4 fish to afford it. Amazing. Now that you know the plan, let's dive into the first game.
Who are you?
I am Steve.
Minecraft boasts a range of fish, and villagers are only too eager to trade emeralds for them. Their rates, however, are borderline daylight robbery. 15 raw cod to get 1 emerald, 13 raw salmon to get 1 emerald, 6 tropical fish to get 1 emerald, and 4 puffer fish to get 1 emerald. Honestly, with these prices, it makes sense why people treat villagers the way they do. Among all these fish, cod is by far the most common. They're practically everywhere in Minecraft, and have the highest chance of being caught with a fishing rod compared to any other fish or item. But in the real world, cod doesn't refer to just one fish. Globally, there are 3 main species of cod, with Pacific and Atlantic cod being the most widespread. Minecraft's cod bears the closest resemblance to the Atlantic variety. Why? Pacific cod, often called grey cod, have a muted color, while Atlantic cod sport a brownish green hue, just like the ones you'll find in game. Plus, since Minecraft was developed in Europe, where Atlantic cod are more common, it's a safe bet that they're the inspiration here. Atlantic cod typically weigh between 5 and 12 kilograms, so we'll use their average, 8.5 kilograms per fish. Now, let's turn our attention to Minecraft's most expensive item. While rare treasures like the Nether Star or Netherite armor are incredibly valuable, you can't actually buy them outright, which makes pricing them quite tricky. For this analysis, we'll stick to villager trades. The priciest item they offer is an enchanted book, which can cost up to 64 emeralds. Sure, you could snag a better deal by using the Hero of the Village buff or curing a zombie villager, but for consistency, we'll base all of our game's calculations on standard trading rates. No discounts, perks, or level ups, just the default numbers. Okay, and before we get to the weight of fish required to buy a staple food in each game, I'll quickly explain what staple foods are. Staple foods are everyday essentials that make up a significant chunk of a person's diet. In the real world, staples like rice, wheat, often as bread, and maize make up 51% of the global caloric intake. In Minecraft, bread takes the crown as the go-to staple food. It's the most common food found in villagers' chests and frequently traded by farmer villagers. To purchase a single enchanted book at 64 emeralds, with a rate of 15 cod per emerald, you'd need to catch 960 raw cod. That's not all. With each cod averaging 8.5 kilograms, you'd need a jaw-dropping 8,160 kilograms of fish. Just over 8 tons. That's nearly the weight of your mom. Farmers sell 6 loaves of bread for 1 emerald. Since 15 cod are also valued at 1 emerald, you would need to catch 3 fish, or 25.5 kilograms of fish for each bread. Unlike some other games, Stardew Valley doesn't have a single fish that you're more likely to catch. This is just because of how the game's mechanics are coded. That said, it's fair to say that the most common fish is the humble carp. Why? It's the only fish you can catch at any time, in any season, and it's the easiest to reel in. Plus, it gives the least amount of experience points. Identifying the type of carp is fairly straightforward, as its shape and color match the real-world common carp. In Stardew Valley, the carp ranges from 15 to 51 inches in length, using real-world length-to-weight ratios that puts them anywhere from a featherlight 1 pound to a whopping 77 pounds. Since that's a pretty ridiculous range and no official averages exist, we'll keep it realistic and go with 8 kilograms, about 17.6 pounds, which is the average weight of a common carp in real life. The most expensive item in Stardew Valley? Well, technically it's the gold clock, which you can buy from the wizard. It's handy as it stops debris from spawning on your farm. It can't be that expensive, right? 10 million gold. It costs 10 million gold. That is expensive, but the gold clock is also a building. So the actual most expensive item in the game is the return scepter. This fancy item lets you teleport straight back to your farmhouse, making it incredibly convenient. The cost? A cool 2 million gold, purchased from Krobus in the sewers. It's not cheap, but it's no gold clock either. For Stardew Valley, just like in the real world, I consider bread to be its staple food, as it can easily be purchased from the Stardrop Saloon. I believe it's an easy choice, considering Gus's only other options are salad, pizza, and spaghetti. Now, let's crunch the numbers. A standard quality carp sells for 30 gold. To afford the return scepter at 2 million gold, you'd need to catch 66,667 carp. And if you were crazy enough to aim for the gold clock, you'd need a mind-numbing 333,334 carp. With each carp weighing about 8 kilograms, that translates to 533,336 kilograms of fish for the scepter, and a staggering 2,666,672 kilograms for the gold clock. Honestly, I don't know about you, but I think the 333,334 carp speedrun category would go crazy. So guys, submit your times in the comments. The Stardrop Saloon sells bread for 120 gold a loaf. At 30 gold per fish, you'd need to catch 4 carp for 1 loaf, which equals 32 kilograms of fish per bread.
Hey, you. Finally awake.
Before we dive in, let's address the elephant in the room, Skyrim's fishing mechanics. While the original game includes fish, the Special Edition and Anniversary Edition added a proper fishing mechanic through Bethesda's Creation Club. Personally, I consider these more like paid mods rather than core game content, but it doesn't matter much here since the most common fish is found in both versions with the same value. The clear frontrunner is salmon. It's the most common fish in Skyrim, frequently spotted leaping up rivers and prominently featured on tavern menus. I was literally channeling my inner bear to catch these guys. Specifically, we're dealing with the Atlantic salmon rather than the more recognizable sockeye salmon. Why? Skyrim's Nordic setting takes heavy inspiration from Scandinavia, where Atlantic salmon are native. In real life, Atlantic salmon typically weigh about 4.5 kilograms, so we'll stick with that as our average weight for these in-game swimmers. Now, onto Skyrim's most priciest possessions. The most expensive thing in the game is Proudspire Manor, a house in solitude, which will set you back 25,000 septims. But since we're sticking to just items, the most valuable one is the Daedric Hammer of Annihilating, priced at a staggering 24,320 septims. Hey, I may now be homeless, but at least I've got this sick hammer, 680 septims, and a new subscriber. Yes, I'm looking at you. Subscribe. Regarding staple foods, bread is the clear winner in Skyrim. It's commonly found in taverns and shops, often sitting next to the ever-present salmon steaks. Let's get to it. In Skyrim, salmon have a base value of 3 septims, but due to Skyrim's less than generous economy and your starting skills, you'll only get 1 septim per fish when selling its meat. So, to afford the Daedric Hammer of Annihilating, you'd need to sell 24,320 salmon. Given that each salmon weighs about 4.5 kilograms, that's 109,440 kilograms of fish to afford 1 hammer. That's nearly the weight of your... A single bread loaf in Skyrim costs 6 septims, which means it's worth 27 kilograms of fish.
Oh my... I'm sorry. Okay. Now you die.
Now, we turn to Mario. Specifically Mario and Luigi, Brothership. Why this game, you ask? Simple, it lets you buy stuff and sell fish. What more do you need? The most common fish here is the Offen, found swimming in the seas of Concordia. The in-game description is delightfully straightforward. A fish that can easily be caught in any sea. It probably got its name from the fact that you can catch him quite often, yeah. Either that or the Commune in France. I don't know, I can't decide. Now, about the Offen's biology. In Japanese and Italian translations, the Offen is called a trout, which is therefore likely the fish it's based off of. While there are plenty of trout species out there, the game's mechanics limit fishing to ocean habitats. That narrows it down to anadromous trout, fish that migrate between freshwater and the sea. With that in mind, it's fair to assume that the Offen is based on the brown trout, which is also known as the sea trout. And bonus points for brown trout, its coloring is a much closer match to the Offen than the rainbow trout. For simplicity, we'll assign the Offen an average weight of 2.35 kilograms based on typical brown trout sizes. The most expensive items in Brothership are the Golden Pow gloves and the Golden Death gloves, both priced at 25,000 coins. Naturally, these are sold on Lotta Coins Island. The people naming stuff in Mario are on another level, man. Now, when it comes to food in Mario, things get tricky. Sure, Brothership has snacks like nuts and boo biscuits, but nothing screams staple food. Though, mushrooms are the obvious winner if we're thinking about the Mushroom Kingdom. It is Mario's go-to snack after all. You can sell an Offen for 10 coins apiece, so you need to catch 2,500 fish to afford 1 pair of gloves. At an average weight of 2.35 kilograms per Offen, this means hauling 5,875 kilograms of fish. In Brothership, a mushroom costs 10 coins, the same as an Offen sale price. That means 1 mushroom equals 2.35 kilograms of fish. In Terraria, the most common fish contenders include trout, rock lobsters, flounders, and bass. Okay, let's rule a few out straight away. Rock lobsters and flounders are limited to desert oases, and trout are exclusive to the ocean. That leaves bass, which can be caught just about anywhere except in desert waters. When it comes to real-world bass, there are two main types to choose from, smallmouth or largemouth. After a bit of pondering and a close look at the in-game sprite, I've gone with the largemouth bass. The horizontal stripe on Terraria's bass is characteristic of largemouth bass, so it fits the bill. In Southern America, largemouth bass typically weigh between 4 and 6 pounds, with most sources settling on an average of about 5 pounds. That's roughly 2.268 kilograms per fish. Terraria's priciest purchase is the companion cube, a purely cosmetic pet priced at 5 platinum coins. Clearly the traveling merchant has some portal licensing fees to cover. Terraria doesn't have an obvious staple food you can purchase. Sure, you can craft meals, but that doesn't really help for this comparison. So, what food would the citizens of Terraria live on if we had to pick? The answer is pad thai. It's sold by the traveling merchant, the only NPC who sells food, and is the most common food item he stocks. It's also a nice choice, as pad thai is made with rice noodles, which are made from rice, a real-world staple. Oh, wait, update. Apparently the merchant sells marshmallows when he is in a snow biome. Not exactly staple food material there, buddy. Terraria's currency system consists of copper, silver, gold, and platinum coins, with 100 of one type equaling a single coin of the next tier up. For simplicity, let's convert everything to the smallest denomination, copper coins. A single bass sells for 5 silver coins, or 500 copper coins. The companion cube at 5 platinum coins costs a whopping 5 million copper coins. This means you'd need to catch 10,000 bass to afford the companion cube. At an average weight of 2.268 kilograms per bass, that's a staggering 22,679.619 kilograms of fish. Pad thai costs 55 silver coins, or 5,500 copper coins, making it worth 11 bass. That's 24.948 kilograms of fish for a plate of pad thai.
I don't see any beautiful girl.
Just turn around.
Misty, please, only one of us can hallucinate at a time.
Next up is Pokémon, and it's an intriguing case. See, fish don't actually exist in the Pokémon world. Only Pokémon do. Each Pokémon does have a category, however. Pikachu is a mouse Pokémon, Charmander is a lizard Pokémon, and Caterpie is a worm Pokémon. And naturally, there's also a category for fish Pokémon, and the most common is Magikarp. Found in nearly every body of water in Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, Magikarp is the poster child for aquatic life in the Pokemon world. But here's where it gets tricky. You can't sell Pokemon. But to be honest, maybe that's a good thing. I was genuinely stuck here, even considering using fish fossils as a measurement. To be honest, I don't know what I was on. But I luckily remembered the infamous Magikarp Salesman, a recurring character across various Pokemon games. He offers you a Magikarp at an outrageous price of 500 Pokemon dollars. In the games, this amount is laughably easy to get. You can get it by defeating one kid with a singular bug Pokemon. Hey, I said it was easy, not ethical. We don't care about the player though, we care about the game's economy, and for the average in-game citizen, it's portrayed as a ripoff. So, I had to look elsewhere to figure out a Magikarp value that isn't outrageous. And coincidentally, the Magikarp salesman sells one to James in the anime and explains that he can breed them and sell them for $100 each.
You can sell one Magikarp for $100. In 3 generations, you have tons of money. Billions and billions!
While it's not ideal to pull information from the anime, this number does align with the game. The Magikarp comes in a Pokeball worth $200, meaning the Magikarp itself costs only $300. A 3 times markup fits the outrageous price description, making 100 Pokemon dollars a reasonable resale value for Magikarp. At 22 pounds, or 9.98 kilograms, Magikarp is a decent sized fish. Now we just need something worth buying. When considering the most expensive item in Pokemon, this situation is quite unusual. While there are several costly items, many are not actually intended for purchase. For instance, in Pokemon X and Y, the Team Flare Pass is offered for 5 million Pokemon dollars, However, this offer is more of a joke, as it suggests you can't join Team Flare. Even if you manage to accumulate the money to buy it, nothing actually changes in-game. Additionally, there are sets of clothes that cost $2.4 million. However, I won't count this, as it consists of several items individually priced between $400,000 and $700,000. In Pokemon X and Y, the starter Mega Stones are priced at $1 million. However, this price decreases to just $10,000 as your style increases. In Pokemon Gold and Silver, a Slowpoke tail is sold for $1 million, while in Pokemon Red and Blue, you can purchase a bike for the same amount. Interestingly, for both of these, this price exceeds the maximum amount of money you can hold in the game, being 999,999 Pokemon dollars. Oh, and you can also just get the bike for free later on. So, what is the most expensive Pokemon item? It is the crown in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which can be purchased for 999,999 Pokemon dollars. What about a staple food? For that, we can look at real-life Kanto, Japan, which inspired the in-game Kanto region. Unsurprisingly, rice takes the crown here. So if you sold the Magikarp for $100, as the Magikarp salesman suggested to James, you would need to sell 10,000 Magikarp to get the crown. Therefore, to catch enough Magikarp to afford it, you would need to catch a total of 99,790.321 kilograms of fish. That's nearly the weight. In Pokemon Violet, rice costs $280. This equates to 3 Magikarp or 29.937 kilograms of fish for a single serving of rice. Look, it was close, but I'm glad Pokemon wasn't a failure, since they're some of my favorite games. Which reminds me, if you'd like to see any of your favorite games featured on the Fish Food Index, please let me know. I might make a part 2, and I doubt it can get as bad as almost relying on fish fossils.
I got some jelly beans.
When fishing in Red Dead Redemption 2, your bait choice determines the fish you'll attract, with the game offering handy in-game tooltips about where each type of fish can be found when you equip each bait. Interestingly, these bait tooltips reveal 3 species you can find almost everywhere: rock bass, bluegill, and chain pickerel. Because I don't own Red Dead Redemption 2, the footage here is from Red Dead Online. Just note that I did use the information from the Red Dead Redemption 2 wiki, and oddly the bait tooltips aren't mentioned in the wiki. So yes, without playing the game, I wouldn't have actually known which fish is the most common. Okay, but which fish is truly the most common? To find out, I fished in their respective habitats, starting with bluegill. Despite an hour of fishing in bluegill territory with cheese, their preferred bait, I caught absolutely none. Bluegill, I've decided, are extinct. Either way, I've taken a personal vendetta against this fish. Based on my experience though, rock bass is the most common. This checks out, since its habitat areas are far larger than those of chain pickerel or the elusive bluegill. The rock bass I caught ranged from 226 grams to 652 grams, averaging about 500 grams. This does align with real-world data, where rock bass weigh about a pound or 0.45 kilograms. Red Dead Redemption 2's most expensive item is the Rose Grey Bay Arabian Horse, priced at $1,250. No twists here. It's actually quite straightforward compared to other games. But what about staple foods? Bread rolls sell for $2 each, but since a roll isn't quite a loaf, let's examine some other meal options. Saloons offer meals for either $3 or $5. Since you can get both oatmeal and cracked wheat and milk for $3, and considering that wheat is a staple food, I'll use $3 as our baseline. Rock bass sell for $1 each, meaning you'd need to catch 1,250 of them to afford the most expensive horse. At 0.5 kilograms per fish, that's 625 kilograms of fish, a mere fraction compared to other games. I mean, an enchanted book is worth more fish than that. And at $3 per meal, you'd only need 3 rock bass or 1.5 kilograms of fish to afford a meal. That's drastically lower than the other games, with Red Dead's fish requirements being roughly 20 times smaller. I mean, I can understand why Mario's fish numbers are off. It's a cartoony game without an actual meal. But Red Dead Redemption 2? I don't know, the difference just bugged me. I mean, why is Red Dead Redemption 2 so far off? But I can say, after digging into the game's economy, I found some, interesting details. Okay, let's play a game. I present to you Red Dead's Economy Dread. Which is worth more, a rock bass or a wedding ring? If you guessed wedding ring, you're correct, but not by much. A rock bass sells for $1, while a wedding ring fetches a mere $5. That's right, 5 fish equals 1 wedding ring. How about a month's rent versus the cheapest outfit in the game? Rent costs $1 per night, so $30 a month. Meanwhile, the cheapest outfit costs $57.25, a little less than 2 months' rent. And finally, a shotgun versus 3 horses. Yep, 1 gun is worth more than 3 horses. Look, it could be worse. These examples use single-player prices. Things get even wackier in Red Dead Online, where a can of baked beans sells for more than a wedding ring. So yes, Red Dead Redemption 2's economy is a hot mess, and the Fish Food Index further proves this absurdity. And after proving that, all I need to prove now are that bluegills are just drones controlled by the American government. Okay, and that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of game economies and fish. Who knew that analyzing virtual seafood could reveal so much about game design? It's genuinely impressive how so many games seem to converge around the benchmark of 30 kilograms of fish for each staple food item. I've actually learned valuable insights about game economies that I will apply to my own game, which you can check out in my previous video. This consistency of around 30 kilograms isn't just some happy accident. It reflects the fine-tuned balancing act that game developers pull off to ensure gameplay feels fair, rewarding, and enjoyable. Though let's be honest, someone really needs to sit Rockstar down for a chat about their economic decisions. Fish are often designed as an accessible early game resource, with their value set at an amount that encourages gathering without making it overpowered. At the same time, staple foods are priced to be easily attainable, creating an economy that feels manageable and realistic within the game's world. By marrying these principles, abundant, fairly priced fish with affordable necessities, games achieve a natural balance that just so happens to hover around the 30 kilogram mark. But beyond the numbers, it's fun to see how much thought goes into these seemingly minor details, shaping how we experience these virtual worlds. So whether you're catching fish, looking at expensive items, or trading your wedding ring for a can of baked beans, remember, there's a whole web of design choices making it all work behind the scenes. If you're interested in a part 2 featuring even more games added to the Fish Food Index, please let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Additionally, if you've noticed any mistakes, such as incorrect fish weights, species, or even the prices of items, please share them. Accuracy is essential, and I want to ensure everything is correct. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.